we're passing by. So this place is very special because this is the entry of Kali Ghati, aka Dehradun, and nearby is a place called Transport Nagar. So if you've seen our music video Aahe, that's also a layer to it that we've shot most of it in Transport Nagar, which was the OG stunt riding spot in Dehradun, in the early days. Like 10-15 years back. So I want to know your perspective on stunt riding. We keep discussing it. That was one of the most initial things that you also did in your life. And what role did overall stunt riding play, and where it is right now, and where do you see it headed? So let's just talk about that a little bit.
To be honest, stunt riding has always been something which was very sacred for me, because when I started off, it was kind of an escape from ongoing things in my life, in our life actually. And there was a lot of turmoil at that point of time in my life, in our life. And I really wanted to escape that. And fortunately, I was not introduced to, say, alcohol, drugs, and all of these things. Rather than I got introduced to my stunt riding.
The whole scene,
the whole scene basically. I saw a lot of people doing it in the YouTube videos and stuff, and I really wanted to do it basically. Then I started on my bicycle, and after that, we did it on scooters, and then whatnot. Then everybody came in, and rest is history basically. But stunt riding has always been something which I thought is an in the movement thing basically. All motorsports, I think, it has a very common aspect in all of them is basically
it demands all your attention.
You can't be thinking of something else while doing it. So that's what it's an escape. It's basically a state of bliss, basically, literally. You can't think of anything else. So, but what happened? But stunt riding was always seen as a taboo. Individually for us, it was what you can say. It was हमारे लिए तो वो पूजा की तरह था, मतलब, I don't know why people are
foolish people.
So, for us, basically, it was very sacred. We used to worship our rides. For people around, it was it was seen as a taboo, people didn't accept us because there was no actual place to do stunt riding. So we always tried to look for a corner or maybe a place where a lot of
going early mornings
where we don't disturb a lot of people.
Secluded roads.
But it was never seen as a sport. It was never recognized as a sport. Still, basically, till date, basically, stunt riding is an hoonigan sport, an hoonigan motorsport.
Even in motorsports, if you see, a lot of things like, rally racing, circuit racing.
Correct.
A lot of these things are still a little fruitful. I wouldn't say they are completely fruitful because that's also in an investment stage because, Shardul, I can take him as a reference point. He goes to race, he wins the races, but still invests from his pocket,
Correct.
So even the winner is not paid enough to cover the cost of just that event.
You're right.
That's the actual state of overall motorsports. And in that overall motorsports, stunt riding is a niche in itself.
Imagine.
Because it's in performing arts. We were very inspired by, stunt GP, Chris Pfeiffer, Aris Farias, Jorian Panamaraf. A lot of people inspired us as well. And we used to see how they're winning their competitions, getting things, and then we used to wonder कि यार यहाँ पे क्यों नहीं है मतलब ये सब.
And we tried, but we didn't have enough resources at that point of time. And today also, we have enough resources, but I personally don't want to inspire people to do stunt riding because it doesn't have any future, to be honest.
Right.
So I don't want to push people into something which does it. So people who are already doing it, we support them, But if you ask me,
they've kind of already dedicated their best years to the
sport. So it's not like we are asking them to leave the sport or something like that. But I primarily, personally, would not suggest, and I think this is basically
I think the stunt riders,
paradoxical thing that we're saying, but we don't advise people to take up stunt riding as a sport or anything.
That's true, because we always wish the best for everyone, and this is something. And if we take example of T Vivo and the riders in T
take a
Vivo,
ride. How can we go right from below? No.
Yeah. We'll have to cross ISBT. What I have realized is, you know, either those who used to stunt ride 10 years ago, either they left the sport, you know, completely. If they didn't leave the sport, they transitioned into something else.
Like
And-
further into motorsports, like rally,
Further into motorsports, or
rally
if I-
enduro.
yes, or they became precision riders
Yeah.
for commercials and feature films. They became stunt riders, commercial, you know, and precision riders. So,
Correct.
but alone through stunt riding always demanded your blood, sweat, and money, because it's a very, I don't know, man. Even though after a lot of efforts, lot of love from a lot of athletes and artists, I don't think the sport could survive, to be honest, and it's a harsh reality.
Yeah.
And if you see, even today, I mean, the height of the motorsports in India, of the overall scene was, I think, around 2012-13 only.
Yeah, man.
You know-
14, basically, when XDL happened.
Yeah. And like that period, like that 7-8 years of period was very good, because we had F1,
Gold. Yeah, man.
you know, BIC mein F1 hua 2 saal back to back, which was a very big thing at that
Correct.
point of time. And also, you know, a lot of, it's a bit off topic, but I saw, have you seen that जो देहरादून rally हुई थी 1986 में?
Man.
That was crazy, man. Like all, so what we can observe is that motorsports trend has gone थोड़ा बहुत down की तरफ ही, like
But,
rally.
but when you say in Himachal, it's been basically up and above only. You know, like it's skyrocketing basically. Rally of Himalayas and all of these things basically.
If you specifically talk about rallies, they're doing good.
This is also part of motorsport. only.
It's a motor part of motorsports, definitely.
But basically in Uttarakhand, basically it has always been declining. You know, like and.
That's true. There hasn't been a lot of local support.
But I
And
think with Shardul coming with this new organization called Pahadi Racing, it was in mind like from a long time. He wanted to do it from a long time, and we will get him to speak about it soon.
Yeah, so Pahadi Racing, you know, it's Shardul's brainchild, basically, and we will let him kind of introduce it to you guys. But it's for the adrenaline junkies, you can say, to enjoy the sport safely and responsibly with international standards.
Yes.
You know, and it has a lot of things, like there are rides, there are events, there are races, so a lot of things keep happening. So do watch out for that space as well if you're interested in motorsports, especially and you're in Dehradun. So it can be a great learning platform for you as well, because Shardul has been around the world, you know. He has completed Romaniacs, which is
First Indian to complete.
first Indian to complete Romaniacs, which is the enduro equivalent of Dakar in a way. And lot of things, like Shardul has brought a lot of pride to this city through a lot of things.
Correct.
You know, if you know about Ace of Dirt, for example, it was an event organized by Red Bull in India, which no Indian had won in years. Not even stepped on the podium. So Shardul was the first one to step on the podium for that, and you know, just for the love of his country, cities, people, and everything. So I mean, huge shout out to him. He's our brother, and we'll make you meet him soon. You'll meet him.
And Dhritaman as well, yeah. Like he has been.
Dhritaman, to his rise has been substantial. Is all I can see, all I can say, because you know, Dhritaman is one of those guys that started following his dreams very later on.
Yeah.
So rallying, he started rallying, I think, when he was 26, 27.
Imagine.
In a sport where people start really early.
Yeah.
You know, usually they start really early. So
Stupid people.
yeah, so Dhritaman is what I can say a natural talent, you know, in his own regard. And I can confidently say that in India, in terms of snow riding, in terms of riding on snow, I don't think there is anyone even close to Dhritaman.
He goes even faster on snow sometimes, I believe.
Absolutely. Like, he crushes it, you know. And I think that's one of the advantages of being in Dehradun. You know, the novelty was very nearby to us. Every winters we used to ride on the snow. That this terrain and this city. So that's why, you know, Dehradun, why we love Dehradun. Dehradun gave us a lot. You know, it
Ah.
gave us the terrains, especially if you talk about off-roading. Dehradun is
Correct.
one of the finest. You have the
Yeah.
toughest terrains, the wildest trails that you can imagine are in Dehradun. And if you can conquer them, then you're built for the world, which our boys have already kind of done.
Hmm.
If you see it. But yeah, I mean, coming back to Dhrittaman is, I think he will take things further, and he hasn't really reached his true potential yet, but he will get there to be sure. I mean, I'm 100% sure of that because it's just in him, you know.
Yeah.
He's a beast when it comes to riding. So no questions asked there.
Our people are still doing stunt riding, by the way. It's not like we are opposing the sport or something like that. Our people still do stunt riding. Prateek, Ankit has a world record.
Yes.
Prateek has immense riding skills, and he's also a precision rider. You might have seen him in one of the TV commercials that you've been watching on TV or maybe on YouTube ads. You might have seen him, but you will not recognize him because he's wearing an helmet, of course. But he's out there basically, and doing whatever they can to keep the sport alive. And
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we discussed that, of course, we can't take stunt riding as a serious sport today. But what about as a recreational thing, as a hobby? What do you think about that?
you can. It's just that it's going to take a lot from you physically and mentally, and also monetarily. So you have to you have to choose your
If-
poison basically.
Yeah. If we take your example, if you were someone who hadn't been exposed to motorsports or stunt riding, what changes do you think would be today? What
I
learnings
think
did you get?
the best thing that has happened to me because of stunt riding is the capacity and capability of taking any risks, because when you go out there and do stunts, you always have to think of what's the worst that can happen to you, and that also applies to your life. The biggest risk takers knows what's the worst that can happen if I do this. So I think that capability is developed into me because of stunt riding. Because जब आपको physically, mentally और monetarily तीनों तरीके से चोट लगती है ना, when you are hurt from all these three aspects, then you know what you are risking. What is the risk? Then you feel what is the risk. Otherwise risk बोलने में तो अच्छा लगता है कि ये risk है, मैंने risk लेके ये सब करा वो करा, but the real risk is when you are hurt actually. In all those aspects. Physically भी आप hurt हो रहे हो, mentally भी आप hurt हो रहे हो, monetarily भी आप hurt हो रहे हो. That's why
Even relationships.
everything why again mentally is basically
Right.
getting hurt mentally. So it takes a toll on you, and then when you recover from it, and I will not say recover, then when you face it, then you know what the risk is.
I think you
in
just
life.
become more resilient overall.
You become more powerful basically in life, and more the capacity and capability of taking risk increases by a margin. When I see a normal person, taking risks, and I'm talking about very very daily things, like how we go to Rashil, and we start doing driftings, even though we don't know the space, or maybe
will
how fast we
happen.
approach a corner, and I think blind turns. Also in businesses basically,
Opening a new store in your startup, a business,
yeah, startup
an
business,
idea,
basically
taking up a job.
taking up a job. Also, in our business, basically filmmaking is not a profession to be run from Dehradun. Well, I don't know, 10 years back to nahi tha. Ab to shayad it is, but when we started off, it was not. That
Absolutely.
risk capacity, taking risk capacity came from stunt riding, and to get all in always, and to churn out results even if you are hurt, basically.
True.
To figure, I think the best thing is basically you mentally become so strong that though you know that you're going to fail, you still do it.
I think that's a state of mind that's very hard to achieve. I observed, Lakshya and all the other stunt riders from a very young age. I even used to shoot them through a smartphone, our old smartphones, 3GP footage days. So we've been
We
from
used
there.
to get you bunk schools with us,
Yeah, I used to bunk schools with my brother, and we used to do stunt riding. Then go to a swimming pool to cool off. Then again go stunt riding.
Yeah.
After that, but just the state of mind, what I used to see and what I was not able to grasp at that young age, and even I think I have trouble grasping that now, is that you are going to get hurt, but you do it regardless. That is, and I was afraid of getting hurt. That's why I never did stunt riding, because I saw, what happens when you fall. You know,
Man, I've lost
I mean,
my entire ligament to it, basically.
Laksha's
I
at
haven't been recovered from that day. But after that, even with that ligament injury, you remember that I had a saying at that point of time, when you crash, just right after that, you have to pick up your ride and do stunt right then.
Right then, yes. Absolutely.
Otherwise, that fear is going to be in your mind always.
It will linger.
It will linger on, and you will not be able to come back. So as soon as we fall, even if there are major injuries, like my
So I think that was the solution, just getting that state of mind, because you're going to get hurt, but why would you do it regardless?
imagine.
Is not just for the hype, and the girls will go wow, and it's not for that.
That was the byproduct.
yeah. But the main thing was, so now I'm able to understand that state of mind a little bit, not much. I love riding personally, but
No, you understand it really well, I think, because it's not about also observing closely. You used to ride a lot. I remember you taking out the car without anybody knowing, and like that kind of risk capability.
I love machines overall. All the machines, all.
And you push them as well.
I push them as well. But stunt riding was something that I used to see you pop a wheelie, and this is, I think, in 2006 or 7.
We didn't know braking and all.
Yeah.
We used to crash every time.
Braking. So as soon as the mudguard used to touch the ground, you used to leave the scooty. Save yourself when the scooty is going crashing like a snake on the road. So a lot of those things used to happen. Then you learn the skills. I think, I'm not sure if you know about that chronology, but Lakshya, Shardul, Varun, these guys started very early on, and then Vishal, Anirudh, Ankit, these guys came along, but they were far more talented, I would say.
It
Anirudh,
also is generational gap,
because they picked up from where these guys left. Circle wheelies and all were nothing for them. They used to start doing circle wheelies in 1 month.
Imagine.
That was the craziness that was, breeding in Dehradun in 2011-12.
Correct.
That's what I'm talking about. So, the boys were so crazy. And even Abhinav Kaushik, man.
Yeah, Abhinav Kaushik. He's a different he's
breed.
not a human being, I think.
I think in 22 days of stunt riding, he started doing combo circles.
Yeah.
So
and also, he went into a deep coma. And he came back, man.
He came back.
He came back. He's a fighter.
So in our community, stunt riders are viewed a little differently, because we know they are the most resilient human beings that you can usually come across.
Superior beings.
Yeah, superior in a lot of sense. Like they don't have fear of dying, man.
Hey, thanks for listening to us on this topic, stunt riding and motorsports. And I hope you liked it. Do let us know if you want us to speak about something else, and would love to talk about. I think, I believe we are two good minds that talk about good things. Let us know if not.
We talk about things that we care about.
Yeah.
And if you care about them also, then I think we can vibe.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. So yeah, see you. Adios.
Adios.